Hi, and welcome to another episode of Souls in the Simulation. I'm Devin, and that is Angie, and we're here.
How?
How?
Hello, everybody. Devin and I are finally recording because we had to re-record, and then for the past 2 days, I've been just falling asleep in the late afternoon, and then last night I missed our whole recording time. Went to sleep late in the afternoon and didn't get up till very early in the morning. So here we are. How are you, Devin?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to talking about Orwell in 1984. That
1984.
yeah,
Very great movie.
yeah. Um,
Well, we were talking before this. You had said you don't think we watched the same version
yeah, I
because
thought
they did do a remake, and then
yeah,
I watched the original 1985 with John
great.
Hurt and Isabella Rossellini.
The 1956.
1985 version. That's the first
Oh,
film version of the movie or of the book was in 1984 that came out in
yeah.
80. It came out in 84,
Well, they
maybe
made a
85.
in 1954 there was a British BBC TV show. And
I
then,
didn't know that.
yeah, in 1956, they had the first film, and in the ending, um, both Winston and Julia they get executed by the firing squad. But then they actually remade it in 1984 too.
I did not realize that the 1984 that was a remake of the. See, good thing that I've got
Okay.
Devin on here to help me.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I mainly focused on I've read the book, and so when I watched the movie, I knew a lot about it at the time it came out because I was a teenager, and I'll get into that, but very much into a band that was initially hired, and they did do the score, the music for it. But so I came at it from that perspective, and then to be able to critique what's going on in the movie compared to what we're dealing with today in our day to day, and it kind of ties into what we'll be covering on the next episode with, as anybody can tell, I say this with a big size, CERN and Project Looking Glass. And I know, just to be clear, because I said this to Devin in a text, like, and then I have to sit research CERN. Whenever I have that kind of uh, on some of these subjects, it's not that I mind learning about them or talking about it because you guys requested it. It's more that it's just some things when you start looking into it, you already know it's bad. I can already tell you guys, we both, Devin and I, and all of you know, whatever they're doing at CERN, there's no good. Just on the periphery of things we know. And you start deep diving and then you start finding out how sinister it really is. And then you're like, kind of like how all the holidays are ruined, right? So that's kind of where I'm coming from on that. So, and real quick, I just wanted to read Devin. Did you want to do our regular intro, or do you want me to get into the one I wrote that's a little different for this one?
Get into the one that you wrote.
Okay. This is kind of more like a business. Real quick, some corrections on some things. First announcement I'd like to make is that Mark Devlin, we will be interviewing him. I'm going to be sending him an email tonight to confirm the time he presented. So we're going to actually interview him on April 16th, and then within a day or two after that interview, we should have it up at some point. So that's something to look forward to. We'll be having him on in April. Um, and then, and he's not really um, into discussing, as he once did, about the music and the things behind a lot of our popular music. And a lot of the stuff he used to cover is more going to be solely on Soul Trick and how to get out of here, because that's really what he's focused on now. And plus, he made the comment in his email back to me that he spent 15 years of his life on that subject, and he wrote 3 books on it, and he's done a myriad of different public speaking about it that can be found on YouTube. So, so just so everybody's aware when he's on, that's really where the focus is mainly going to be on that point. And then a couple other things I wanted to address. Most of this is based off our last Valentine's Day video. When we present views, and I will be reading from notes because I wrote this out, so I would be very articulate. I tend to write better than I speak, but when we present views that are considered alternate history, our reasoning for doing that is based upon the fact that most, if not all, mainstream history is seemingly and intentionally fabricated and skewed, especially considering points of view that are told from the victor's standpoint pertaining to wars. More often than not, everything taught as historical fact is only discovered to be a false narrative that was either done in ignorance or intentionally as time moves forward, and we're able to uncover that once again, nope, that was a lie, that was a lie. So, and if you know, in our last episode, for example, Devin had mentioned the ancient Greek festival Rakaya, but at the time she was trying to research the date. I went back through so I could put in the notes what that date was, and it was celebrate. What we know about it is that it was celebrated yearly, probably at the beginning of May, though it's not specifically known from any historical standpoint of the specifics. They think it was just in the month of May, but nobody has like it was in fact May and a date in May if it was celebrated. So, and that is in the description notes of that video. Some other things that I'd like to correct is I didn't state enough or probably emphasize enough that Valentine's Day is named after Saint Valentine, most likely a 3rd century Christian martyr, possibly a priest or bishop who was executed on February 14th. And keep in mind, there were several Saint Valentines. There isn't just one, there's myths about multiple of them. So it's not just one Saint Valentine. There were a couple martyred around that time frame, between 269 and 270 AD by Roman Emperor Claudius II. Some historians propose Valentine's Day Christianized the pagan Roman festival of Lupercalia, which was banned by Pope Gelasius, which we covered in our episode, around 496 AD, replacing it with St. Valentine's Day feast on the 14th. This is on me, I also left out 2 poems by Chaucer. When I spoke about Chaucer and romanticizing, he's kind of the person where we attribute the romanticization of the holiday. And those poems were the Party of Fowls and the Complaint of Mars. And those should have been included with the book that I mentioned by him. So anyone wanting to find mainstream narratives for many of the topics we cover are able to access them easily with basic searches. We're presenting information more often than not outside of those boxes, and then we express our individual views or those of our guests, and then let you, the viewer, discern for yourself. Take what resonates, discard the rest. Arguing points and tit for tat is kind of loose production and wasted energy. Kind of just agree to disagree with us. That's kind of what we're looking for. And we're human. We may come across information that that seems credible at the time, and we'll do our due diligence on it. But we may get it wrong, and if you bring that to our attention, we'll always own that and rectify it and be kind of transparent about that. So I know a great many topics we cover on our channel can be triggering and depressing. Today's episode is going to be no different. We've received a question or two about why we do movie reviews, or many wonder why we're covering all of the periphery and in regards to the experiences here in this hellscape simulation. And I would say, I don't know if you agree with this because I wrote this from my perspective because you weren't with me when I wrote it, but the goal is knowledge in order to navigate the simulation while we're here and foster resistance to hive mind thinking, as well as provide a place of support for each other on this journey out. That's my reasoning for why we cover. It's not just solely on when we get out of here, but why we're living here. So yeah. I don't, yeah. We're not specifically a political or news channel. However, we will discuss current events as they may relate to topics we're covering. We understand, just as many of you, this isn't an easy or popular path, but it is a sovereign one. In order to get the knowledge to exit, by unbinding and unattaching ourselves from all of this and everything here. It is our intention for all of us to support each other, as everyone in the know is chipping away and obliterating this realm, or at a minimum, at least working to free themselves. With this in mind, we'll get into the dreary, cold, problematic, and very well, I would say prophetic movie in terms of the problematic issues that we're having to deal with and are living in the day in and day out that we find ourselves in today. So, did you want to get into the dark, dreary drab of 1984 and tell everybody what it's about?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, and I think what you wrote and what you just said was very well expressed. So,
Oh, thanks.
yeah, yeah. All right, today we are talking about the book, 1984. And this book was written by Orwell, who became this anarchist socialist against state capitalism, anti-communist. He hated propaganda. And he wrote 1984 while he was battling tuberculosis. And I think he wrote it right before he died, right before he got the first like edition out. But 1984 is this dystopian nightmare. And there's just mass surveillance everywhere, mass control. Everything is just so heavily controlled, false narratives. There's no freedom of speech, and every move of yours is just being monitored. So yeah, where should we start with this?
Well, since you just brought up being monitored,
Yeah.
So Devin covered at the beginning of this that there was original versions made. I had read the book. I was kind of an odd teenager in that I would read a lot of things that other people wouldn't. So I knew the movie was coming out. One of my favorite bands, the Eurythmics, was tagged to make the soundtrack for it. So I went ahead and read the book. What is this? What is this about? Then the movie comes out and I watched the movie. And while I was reading the book and watching the movie, many of you may find this funny, but in 1984, there was no technology the way it exists today. So when they're showing these screens in the movie and that they can see what's going on in your household and they can listen to phone calls, and which I knew that they could bug phones, the FBI could, I knew that was a thing, right? But to the level that what they can do now is tack in. They don't have to have people come out and mess with your phone line, right?
Yeah.
So when I watched this movie in 1984, and for years afterwards, I thought that'll never happen. There's no way that they can track people in their car. If you're driving in your car, they can't track you, which they couldn't back then. I mean, I'm sure there was some form of government probably had a tracking device, but not to the knowledge of the average person. None of us knew about that stuff.
Yeah.
And we certainly wasn't current to the lengths of today, let alone that your TV and our phone and this computer that I'm looking at you through, they could tack into the right now, this conversation that we're having. And while we're recording this video, but the very idea of that to me was like, that'll never happen. That'll never happen. They can't do it. And now
Look how it turned out.
every time a new piece of technology comes along, I'm like, and here we go, we're accepting it, and we've just imprisoned ourselves even that much more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think yeah, ever since just what was it like the early 2000s, right? I mean, technology has just taken the biggest turn. And then with like 9/11 and the Patriot Act, surveillance has just become normalized in a
And
way.
we go for it.
Yeah, yeah.
We're like, hey, they bombed our buildings. And hey, I'm not. I was right along with the herd on that one. Oh, we were attacked. So yes, surveil me. I have nothing to hide. The only problem with that is it never just stops there. It always gets expanded and nobody realizes that. Like, for example, people who say things like, what they're doing in Gaza, they're trying to beat Hamas. Gaza is the blueprint for the way they want the world to operate. all of the stuff they're using on those people, if you don't think it's going to come home and affect you, you are sadly mistaken, because it will. All of the things that target individuals when they're looking for somebody, if you say something, I mean, honestly, someday Devin and I might be, or any of the other people you watch on these channels, or you yourself as an individual watching us, and the things you say and the stuff that you watch, if they end up wanting to target you, they can already start that process, because like when you I mean, Palantir is 1984. Let's be real. It's like what what everything has led to. That is the 1984 of our.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'd say we're already there already, Devin. What do you think?
I definitely think so. Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking in my mind, this month they did like the Epstein stuff, and then today
Hmm.
Trump was talking about the disclosure on aliens, and I'm like, what's gonna happen next month? What's gonna happen? What kind of bullshit are they gonna throw at us next month?
Well,
Man.
and we were talking before this too about if, you know, I mean, I don't even care at this point, drag me, whatever. But if you look, like, do we honestly think that these people are going to go to prison for that woman that's in prison is not Ghislaine Maxwell. And even if it were, look what they did. They just put her in a kindergarten prison. She's a sex trafficker. She's supposed to be doing hard time. And she's right down the road from Devin and I. She's not too far from us where
Oh,
we are
really?
here at a little, yeah. Do you know she's in Texas? That's where they moved her to. She's outside of,
Adelaide? No.
no, it's kind of toward Houston, sort of.
Abilene. No.
No, she's not up that. She's closer to us down here, but then
Okay.
like maybe 2 hours.
Okay.
What is it? Huntsville.
Oh, Huntsville. Okay.
But she's not in the Huntsville like hardcore part of the prison. She's in the low security.
She's in
And
those.
she's gotten her own cell. They fucking bring her. She's not eating the same food as everybody else. She gets the time with the puppy. They give her a cell phone. She has access to a computer. Yeah. But here's the thing, that woman that's in there, that's not her anyway. And Jeffrey Epstein, I'm convinced, is not dead. And he certainly, I mean, did you see that they released files that the night before his death, that there was papers coming out saying that he was dead? That was just released in the Epstein files. And then also a prison guard went on 4chan, and our government was trying to figure out at the time that this happened. He was a prison guard there, and he was like, they had a van show up, 2 vans, like the night before, that came and showed up, and Jeffrey was supposed to be taken to the infirmary, although the nurse never saw him, never spoke to him. He was taken out in a wheelchair, loaded up into a van. Nobody signed those vehicles in, by the way, and they weren't signed out. And this guard in this 4chan comment at the time, mind you, this isn't years later. This is like the day after they're saying he's dead. He writes this on 4chan and basically saying, I think they swapped him out. So
Mm,
when you factor it all together, and this is, people could be like, well, what does this have to do with the movie? It's everything about the movie. The movie is all about the, not only are you controlled, but you're propagandized and lied to you.
yeah.
That's what Winston's, the main character's job is, to redact and reframe and present information that is not accurate to the public, that's going to go out into the news
Yeah.
to let people know what's going on.
Yeah. Completely rewriting the past to serve their agenda. Yeah.
And also point to make citizens within the nation public enemy number one. All the dissidents, right?
Yeah.
Like Goldstein, for example,
Mhm.
and eventually uh, Winston himself at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I think about like the rewriting of the past, and I'm like, oh, schools are these institutions where they completely just feed children these false histories, right? And um,
Well, don't you? I mean, I don't know. Don't you feel like you wasted your time? I do, because you're younger than I am. So
Yeah.
you might have gotten a little bit better because you had a lot of stuff you could have fact checked. But if we wanted to fact check something, we had to go find an encyclopedia, which again was printed material
Hmm.
by the same people like uh I think it was the Rockefellers or the Rock some oh no, it's Maxwell. Maxwell had deep, deep, deep pockets into like Rand, the people that make the textbooks for us.
Yeah.
Well, who's dictating to them what to teach us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like school was a waste of time.
It is. It is. It's too much information to actually process too. Like, so it's just you can consciously remember it for a little bit, but then they're doing so much to you, like teaching you so much that none of it gets like um, used later on in life, or you can remember most of it. And I can't think of many situations where I've had to use algebra in my daily life or geometry or
Or
um,
how about like when you did you go to college at all?
yeah, I did a little bit of college. Yeah.
So you when you're in high school, you have to do 2 semesters of art of government,
Mm,
government one, government two, and then you have to have history one, which covers a certain part of U.S. history up to the Civil War, and then Civil War up to current day, right? And then you go to college and you have to take the same shit again.
yeah, to get the credits. Yeah.
You have to go through the same, it's the same stuff that's not advanced. And then, do you know why I didn't finish my degree when I came to Texas because school was cheaper and cost of living was cheaper in 1990, I think it was 95 or 96. And I resented and I refused when they told me when I came here, because in California, we didn't have to take California history to get a college degree. Who gives a shit about I mean, I didn't. I come to Texas and they're like, no, that's a requirement to get. I'm like, I don't want it. I was like, oh, so you want me to learn about the Alamo? I don't need to learn about it in your classroom. I can tell you what happened. There were Mexicans here, and then a bunch of white people took the land. This land was belonged to Mexicans, and before it belonged to Mexicans, it belonged to indigenous people. And what are Mexicans? Mexicans are the product of the rape and pillaging of the indigenous people.
Yeah.
That's from the Spanish or the Portuguese that came here. So, I mean, I even had a comment with somebody who really had a problem with some of the stuff that Jackie said in the video, few videos back. And I told them, they told me the fact that I said hypocrite means I'm against lies, that it's hypocritical to say immigrants aren't welcome here. And I was like, by definition, a country of immigrants who stole the land from other people, telling other immigrants they can't be here is hypocritical. I mean, and that's the thing, talking about 1984 and how this ties in. Look at what propaganda does to people to the point that they actually believe that's the way it is. Like that's reality. And there's no nuance to anything. It's all right and wrong, me versus you, black and white thinking.
Yeah.
And for the record, Devin and I are not saying that we should just have open. I mean, I'm not going to speak for you, but I'm not saying that there should just be open border. Again, there's nuances to what I'm saying, but we're not a political podcast, and I'm not going to get into that. We'd have a 4 hour damn long podcast, and we're not going to get into that.
Yeah.
But the idea is, in theory, it's hypocritical from my point of view.
Yeah.
No, I don't know where you stand on the open border thing or not. I just thought maybe you might want to put your 2 cents up there because I'm telling you, some people will just, if we don't take it to the next level, they're going to be like, you're this and you're that, and you're for open borders. And,
Oh yeah.
uh,
Um, I think borders are they can be okay, right? Um, but I think there are a lot of it's really, really, really difficult to become like legalized here in the United States. And some people that just the whole process, it's like difficult, and you could spend years and years and years waiting for your green card, and then they put your name in like a lottery, and whoever gets drawn gets like their green card. There's so many tricks
Well,
to
and
it all that.
I know my ancestors didn't come here legally. They arrived
Yeah,
on a boat. They got processed legally and they checked in, yes.
yeah,
But in terms of their arrival, it wasn't like they submitted paperwork and came over here or get permission. They came over on a boat,
yeah,
you know. And you know, a lot of people forget, or maybe they just don't know. But in terms of the world, the U.S. has 800 bases worldwide. Those are the ones we know. I'm going to guess there's a couple hundred around the world we don't know. Russia has one. Oh, I'm sorry. Either Russia has one or China has one, and the other one has two. When you look, and then we're involved with NATO. Okay. So when you look at what we're doing in the world, we have overthrown many governments and been involved in many regime changes and dragged those countries to third world status. I can go down the list. Honduras. Everybody remember a little thing called Iran Contra? Um, I mean, Vietnam. I mean, it just goes on and on the list of countries that we've interfered with. And then once we take those economies to crap, guess what? Those people have no way to earn a living. Their lives are disrupted. The economy's forever disrupted. Guess where they come? Here. America is dealing with the ramifications of its own actions, and people are free to believe whatever they want on that. But if you peel back the layers and don't fall for the propaganda, that's what we're looking at here.
That made me think of a motif from the movie, the book Doublethink, which was definitely like irony, manipulation, control. And they tried to hide two contradicting ideas. Sorry, and believe that both are true, and they used it to create the loyalty between the citizens. So you had the Ministry of Truth, which was for like news, media, education, fine arts, but really they are the ones who manipulate and distort information. And then you have the Ministry of Peace, which they're all about trying to resolve war, but really they're waging war. And the Ministry of Love, they're all about law and order, but in reality, they're the ones that oversee the punishment. And then the Ministry of Plenty, they're for economic affairs, but then what they're actually doing is the shortcomings in the economy. And I thought that kind of, goes with what we've been talking about, right? The all the false narratives going on, and yeah, yeah,
Well, I don't know about you. I'm to the point where I watch very little mainstream and I'll watch things that are more independent, but I will, contrary to what most people think, I will watch things on the right. I will watch things on the left and kind of have to weigh those things and the information that's being, and then I don't even trust 90, I mean, I would say there's a few people, I would say Glenn Greenwald would be one of them, Max Blumenthal, and then one of the biggest people that I go to and read their stuff would be Whitney Webb. And Whitney Webb stuff kind of uncovers a lot of, it is tied to how the mafia is kind of running things. Or the model, I should say, of how the mafia works with our government, but are behind their government finance and all those kind of things, and the Epstein stuff. And she backs everything up she says, and she puts her resources in there. Her books, two of them, One Nation Under Blackmail, each of those are 1,000 pages. And and this tie, and this person to this tie, and here's the article that, because people forget they leave traces of all the crap that they're doing all the time, that can be verified. So I highly recommend that, but it goes to showing that that's the lengths to which you have to go if you want to know anything at all, because just listening to somebody's talking head and what they're putting in front of you, this movie really highlights that when you live in a world like we're living in, nothing you perceive as the reality everybody else is living and eating and just soaking in is not reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they could get we see it now. Like they would get the groups of people, they would show a video of somebody confessing or being public enemy number one, and the people would just they have their arms up like this and way up just above eye level and shouting at the screen. And I was like, how is that not different between I'm right and you're on the left and I'm right and you just kind of like what we see. You just want to have open borders and you want to just have this and you want to have that. And then the other side saying you're just anti-human and backwards and nobody's hearing each other talk. They're all up into a frenzy, which is what the people are in this movie.
Definitely. Definitely, yeah. Yeah. This whole thing, that was I guess it was never in the book. They put it into the
No,
movie.
it wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But
Um,
but interestingly enough, again, it wasn't the arms, but did you ever see Pink Floyd The Wall?
man, I think so, but it was I was in college. So that was over 10, 15 years ago.
There's an interesting part in that when he's on his mind expansion, I'm going to say drug trip, that's what it seemed like to me, but where he sees himself as a ruler, like a Hitler type, and even dresses in a dark uniform with a red, the patch is red with the white circle in the middle, and it had two hammers. The hammerheads are crossed like that.
Like that.
Yeah, and the top of the hammerheads are black. Most of the handle of the hammer is red, with the end of it being black or vice versa. But that same thing, and that symbolism, and then um, even the way the Nazi symbol is intertwined. You still have a cross. You still have a cross shape.
Yeah.
Uh, you
The
know.
camera keeps zooming in on your face when you do that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's like a slow zoom in, then it slowly zooms out.
Special effects.
But mine doesn't do that. Um,
Yeah, and the funny thing is too, I have my computer a good distance away from it too, so that's weird that it's doing that. But special effects, everybody,
yeah.
enjoy.
Yeah, and then I've been noticing too, I don't know what it is, but like the color, do you have your TV on?
No, I don't. I have
Like,
a new light that I actually have had it for a while, but we just found it.
yeah.
Michelle went through another things that she unpacked, and she's like, "Hey,
Okay.
you had this light." But I guess because if I block, I think what it is I block the light sometimes with the way I
Okay.
move in terms of how it's hitting me. So, but
Uh,
at least I'm not flipping out
yeah. Like
because
it'll turn
we had
like
a lot of
pink
people
and
complaining about that.
blue and green, kind of.
Yeah, it does. It
Okay.
looks like a strobe effect.
Oh, okay.
Michelle's going to turn off the overhead one and see if that helps. I don't know. We'll see
Oh,
if that
okay.
gets
You can see
better
the colors more, yeah. Yeah.
and more stable.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we're playing with lighting. So until I get more functional, which today I had PT and OT today. We kind of determined I have a lot of work to do just to gain strength back. I'm basically like if you took muscles that have no muscle tone and just put skin around bones. Like I'm like bones and skin with hardly any muscle.
Yeah.
You going to bed? Okay, good night.
Good
Um,
night.
Devin says good night. Yeah, that works better. Yeah. So that's good night. So that's kind of what since it's going to be a minute, that's why we're kind of messing with lighting because I know I'm going to have to be dealing with this for a while.
Oh,
So
okay. Okay.
yeah,
Um,
not, I mean, I'm getting better. That's my mindset, on it. But when you have to rebuild from like basically severe after, like the amount uh, of terminology in terms of muscle loss that she's saying, my legs to me even don't even look like my legs anymore. Like I feel like this is somebody else's body.
yeah.
and even the right leg to the left leg, obviously have more tone in the right leg. And so I was looking at my left leg going, this looks like it belongs to somebody else. Like it doesn't even, I'm like, this doesn't even look like it goes, like it looks like somebody took a bunch of body parts and like, okay, we'll make this the right leg and this the left leg. Even the left arm to the right arm, even my hands even are looking. This one here, I don't know if you can tell, you see this finger here
Mm.
sticks way out. I can't, like it's really hard.
Yeah.
And then this one I can't, and compared to this hand, which functions better. So it's these weird things. And so I have to retrain. Yeah, see?
Like, do my hands do that? Like,
No, they don't. But and
oh,
even like this motion here of flexing the wrist up,
yeah.
this one's here is much weaker. And so we're having to
Build that strength.
I basically the wording that's been used is unlike a stroke patient who didn't have a stroke.
Yeah.
It's really bizarre, but so that's why sorry, that was a long explanation for why the lighting, we're just trying to figure out what's going to work best.
Yeah.
And because I'm tired of getting, hey, you blipped out in your background. It's just, yeah, I get it. But you know what? You're an able-bodied person. I'm not you personally, but I'm not right now. We're having to kind of work with what we can. So
Yeah.
it is what it is. But yeah, like what you were saying about um,
The
we kind
double,
of left,
oh yeah,
yeah,
the
you
double
left
thing.
off with the devil stuff, and then we got into the symbol, some of the symbolism, not all of it, but
Yeah.
and the propaganda and getting the people whipped up into a frenzy.
Yeah. I know a couple things I want to talk about. So in the 1984, anyone who defects or hints at defecting, they get vaporized, like completely like wiped from existence. And in the, I think it's maybe just the book. Is it just the book? The children are sent to like junior training schools where they become
Hmm.
spies, and not even their parents can their parents live in fear because if their parents say anything that isn't within the order and the control, their children tell on them. Ooh, yeah. Um, in 1984, sex and romance, they're completely outlawed, and sex is only used for procreation. And every member of the movie, they're watched through their telescreens. Um, and the telescreens monitor, man, I just think this was written in 1950. The telescreens monitor their facial expressions and their heart rate. So even if they, even if they twitch, sorry, I don't know what's up in my throat. Even if they twitch or do something that um, is out of order, it could lead to their arrest. So their nervous systems start to become a threat to everyone living in this society.
Gotta take a drink.
Harper ran off with my water.
Well, and they have stuff like that now that like they want to implement, and they can, that will actually tell if you're working, if you're at work and you're not focused on your work, it'll know that
Yeah.
you're distracted and will tell them. I mean, like it's basically how he wrote about what we're living in right now. Back then, this is 1950s that he writes this. And I can tell you 30 years later, growing up as an 80s kid, where we were at in the 80s is nowhere near where they were at in the 50s. And he came up with this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
And
incredible.
yeah. And that reminded me, I wanted to touch on who actually pioneered this dystopian kind of genre. And his name was Zamyatin. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but he published something called We in 1924. And he wrote about just this dystopia around mathematics, and everyone's identified by numbers. Every individual, they are just cogs in a machine, and they live in glass houses, and they have basically no identity. And so they sacrifice their freedom for the beauty of mathematics certainty in this publication. And so this inspired Orwell a lot. It inspired Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. And this, in We, he says that 2 times 2 is absolute natural law, right? And Orwell, in his 1984, he uses 2 plus 2 equals 5. And Orwell says freedom is freedom, to say that 2 plus 2 um, makes 4. And yeah, I think it's I enjoyed reading about how we was based on all these like mathematical um certainties, right? And now, even in today's world, we have all of these algorithms, and our next topic is even going to be looking glass, to
Yeah.
predict choices, to predict the future. And in uh, we in 1984, there's this battle between truth and logic and oppression, and all these different things. And yeah, I wanted to touch on that, and how this guy, it started even before 1950. In 1924 was when this dystopian kind of genre came out.
It's
Just,
almost like there was like a thread of premonition in humanity
yeah,
to like some sort of subliminal awareness of, I mean, how do you come up? Why would you in those times? If you can't even conceive of the type of technology that's even going to exist in your time and then be able to write about it. I mean, they barely had TV. They were listening to the radio for programming. It was radio before the 1950s. You
yeah,
wanted to listen to a show, you had to hear people talking about it on the radio. They didn't have TVs. And shortly after we get the TV, this guy's writing about, hey, they're watching you through your screen,
yeah,
you know? And to the point of you saying the truth, the truth and trying to find the truth. Don't you find it fascinating that people, whether they're involved in the occult, it's called the hidden knowledge, right? Or the real truth behind things. They know the real truth of things. Or if you go to the New Age movement, your higher self, right? There's a higher truth besides there's I'm beginning to doubt the word truth and what that even means,
mhm,
especially after watching this film and looking at what's going on in our world, but then also the topics we talk about on here. What does that really mean? Because when we, talk, when you've talked or we've spoken about OBEs and NDEs and our dreams, is that true? I mean, the experience was an experience, but what you experience and the story that you tell yourself, that's the brain interpreting something. But is that true? And what you're told or what you experience, it could be just another story that
yeah,
has no relevance. I mean, I was just telling Devin before this, I find myself in my dreams questioning everything.
okay. Sorry, we took a little break right there. Um, but one thing I wanted to talk about that we haven't covered yet is how the CIA funded
Okay.
they funded Animal Farm, and then later on 1984. And I read that they had been watching him for a really long time. Stay over there, baby. That they had been watching him for a really long time. And after he passed away, Harp Celeste, stay over there, okay? After he had passed away, they they went to his widow, and they basically bought the film rights off of her, and told her that she could meet Clark Gable from Gone from the Wind. But it wasn't
And
the CIA. That's what
right,
you,
they didn't present that they themselves as they basically presented them as fronts for different businesses, different individuals that had access. Like I'm just using it as an example, but like, hey, I'm a Hollywood producer, but it wasn't. It was a CIA agent, um, or somebody who's interested in. Hey, I'm a book publisher, so she had no knowledge that she was handing over his work and selling it to the CIA.
yeah, yeah,
But that's in fact who it was, and that is a verifiable fact. Anybody can find access to that information, doing
yeah.
their
And what were
research
they?
on it.
What were they doing around that same time too?
Oh, all sorts of, and
I'm sure,
actually,
yeah.
in the 1950s, I don't know if a lot of people know this, it wasn't called the CIA, it was called the OSS. And that was when George
What does that
Bush
stand
Sr.
for?
was running it. Operations, I can find
Secret
out real quick.
Services? Okay.
Um,
Look it up. Yeah. I know I was gonna say Operation Mockingbird. And
oh yeah, there's that
yeah.
too.
So first they
Oh,
did,
and MK Ultra was, well,
yeah,
no, they didn't. It was going on then. It
it
just
started,
we found out about it in the 70s, but it had been
yeah,
going on then too.
yeah. So with
Oh,
Animal Farm, I know they had Howard Hunt. He helped write the script for Animal Farm. And he was this like really seasoned CIA operative. And he was definitely part of the Operation Mockingbird that was going on. And they made some changes in the, were you gonna say something?
oh, I found it whenever you're ready. I was just going to let you know.
Okay, no, you can go ahead.
It was called the Office of Strategic Services, and it was formed in 1942 and overseen
1942.
by George Bush Sr.,
Uh,
among many.
among many.
Mhm. At one point, Donald, everybody remember Donald Rumsfeld? A lot of the Bush people under Bush Jr. had ties back to his father's ties to the OSS. So before it
Mm,
was called the CIA.
mm, yeah. Oh, but I was saying they changed a couple different things from the movie to the book, and some of it was just like basic terminology, where they changed vaporizing to liquidating, and they use liquidating in the sense of dismantling like geopolitical, military, and different ideologies that were between the US and the Soviet Union 'cause at that time. All of that rivalry was going on. Um, but with the movie from the book really, if you read the book, what I've heard, it feels so much more oppressive and uh just a lot deeper than what the movies showed, right? And it didn't, in the movies you don't feel that just total crushing oppression.
No,
Um,
I feel like the movie feels it's just dirty and bleak and
bland,
gray and like
boring.
a third world. It looks like a third world country.
Yeah, yeah, which I think
But
was
you
definitely like,
and Richie discovered was intentional.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
you don't feel the same. I'm not saying it's pleasant, but I wouldn't. I agree with you. There is a different, almost suffocating, um, yeah, oppressive feeling. That's a good word for sure.
Yeah.
And it's a dry read, I know you haven't read the book. I didn't reread it for this episode. I wouldn't have had time, but it's a dry read. It's not something that I would relish reading. I'm glad having read it, I'm glad I have, but it's not something, it's kind of like watching the movie. I wasn't looking forward to it. I saw it once when I was 14, never watched it again. And I remember my impression of it then being much as it is now. First of all, it's a world you don't want to think about living in, which we're already here in it now. But also just whether it's the book and the dry writing style or the oppressive component to it or the movie with its bleak kind of gray, uh, there's not a lot of color in it. It's a very drab, depressive, uh, and one of those where it's kind of like another movie called Only Vampires Left Alive. There's nothing that really, not that I'm saying you need to be blowing stuff up all the time, but it's just kind of almost like somebody talking monotone for 2 hours or an hour and a half, however long, where you're just kind of like, is something going to happen here? Um, it's really not till you get to the end of the movie where it kind of has where he gets caught and they get caught where you kind of have a pace pickup. But most of it's a kind of an inner monologue of Winston for most of the movie.
Mm, yeah, yeah. There was one thing that Winston said when he went into, it was the room 101, and he said, uh, no emotional loyalty or moral conviction can overcome pain and torture. And that was when I guess he and Julia they broke off their romance that they were having, and he I think in the book it was different from the movie. What happened in the movie? Was it
In
the
terms of it,
they were
well, the
gonna
rat
yeah
in the movie, but are you talking about like in the room 101 itself, or what he says to Julie and what she says to him being in the
him and
book?
Julia
He in the book, um, the term betrayed is
betrayed? Yeah.
used. He says, "I betrayed you to Julia," because he gave her up, and she gave, and you find out she gave him up too. But in the movie, he says, "I told them about you,"
Oh,
and
that
she
was
says the same thing. So that was
okay.
that was where subtle changes,
Yeah.
but one, you have somebody actually admitting, "Hey, I screwed you over," versus I had to, and he makes in the movie he basically saying, "I had to," right? I had no. By using that terminology, it's more of a plea kind of. I didn't want to do it, but I had to tell them about you kind of thing.
Mm.
And the book, it's not that. It's just more to the point of, "Hey, I betrayed you," which is an interesting question for us to answer as individuals. I think. Would you be willing to sell out your neighbor? I
Yeah.
met a woman who was a acupuncturist years ago who came from Romania when it was under communism, and she said people would listen to your conversations. Your neighbors would watch what you're doing because it would gain them favor
Mm.
with the state. And so you had to watch yourself. I think that that's something we need to be part of this community with the way things are going. Um, are you going to be somebody that sells out? Are you going to, regardless of what the consequences are you going to stand up?
Yeah.
Where I start asking yourself those questions. Where is your sense of moral? Um, because would that be, in a sense, kind of consenting to what's going on here by acquiescing out of fear
Yeah.
to what's going to happen to you? So that's just
Absolutely.
something to consider.
Yeah. Yeah. So with what happened to Winston, did it change your opinion on him at all?
No, I mean, not in the sense of I'm not going to judge somebody because fear's a thing, right? I mean, uh, that's a hard thing to overcome. Um, Especially when you're faced with your worst fear. Your worst, he was definitely terrified of rats and they've got one coming toward his face. All they have to do is open the lever and it's running at his face. For me, they already know, but even back in the day and even currently, this might make people laugh, but the worst thing that somebody could do, the rat, that's dangerous. It's disease ridden. Yeah, it'd be freaky. But if they put cockroaches in there, that would be the thing that I would really have to overcome a lot. Now, would I, and in that moment, would I betray somebody? I don't think I would. And I can say that only from going from the sense of trying to be as true to myself as I can, but also I put myself in situations where I was willing to die for somebody else and
Mm.
almost have. Um, and I didn't even have to, I wasn't being threatened. There was nothing dangerous. It was me stepping in front of something. And that's not to say, oh, wow, look great as me. That's the only, because I don't think any of us can answer that question until we're in it. But I'm saying that I would hope that that would carry forward by virtue of my past or things, the character that I've had in the past, but also step forward in those circumstances. But do I judge somebody else? No, I don't think I don't think you can because it's hard to, they're not you as a person. You don't know what family they have. You don't know what's going on in their mind. Is their mind breaking apart? Is their mind overwhelmed? And I think to judge somebody, even in countries where there's oppression going on under the same kind of thing, I don't even judge the people that I don't agree with it. I don't like it. But the people that are like, get the immigrants out of here, or that are staunch Trump supporters, I don't understand it. And it's not a way of thinking that I ever want to possess. But I also don't hate them. And I hope I don't get flack for that by saying that. But what place does that have? And what will that solve if I hate them or I judge them? It's not, I can't, I don't know them. I don't know why they're in that mindset or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll stand up to them and I'll stand up for other people if they may persecute them, but I don't hate them. I don't think that has any place in the world because it's not going to help anything, right? So that's my take on that.
Yeah. Okay.
And not judging Winston per se.
Not judging him.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
her, for example, because she did the same thing to him too. I
Yeah.
think that's like
Yeah. And they were shown like what would happen. I think their friend got like people got memory wiped, right? Or um vaporized and
well, I mean, think of it this way. I mean, take the we're not lovers, so that's our relationship isn't in that way like theirs was.
yeah.
But when I was watching it, I was thinking about people in my life, whether it's Michelle, whether it's you, or even one of the viewers that we have, that's emailed us a lot, or
Yeah.
who I don't even know that well, right? And if somebody came to me and said, "Tell us," I would be like, "You can do whatever you want." And if you and I even thought this in my mind, this illness is its own form of torture and pain and different things. And so I'm like, there isn't anything. I mean, yeah, there's stuff, don't get me wrong, there's stuff that's really painful out there that they can do, but I'm not afraid of it because I already live it, right? And they can threaten me with ruining, like embarrassing me. Well, I'm like, really? Because I'm already sitting in a chair with a cath tube. You guys can't see it, but I'm like, but I'm still recording and I'm still doing this. So I was like, if somebody tried to get me to sell you out or one of our viewers out or a stranger who's on the opposite side of everything I believe, I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't
Are you froze?
do it. And those were the kind of questions I was asking myself while I was watching the movie.
Yeah. Okay. Um, I think we can talk about the different other motifs, symbols, and then wrap it up. What do you think?
Yeah, we can throw some quotes out there, and
Okay.
I'll end it on what I think is the most
Yeah.
important quote because
Yeah.
it's a good one to end on, I think.
Okay. All right. So, Big Brother. Orwell actually created that term, which is now we see that we use that, right? Big Brother. And in the movie, it was the kind of the elite, this face of the party that's never really been seen, and fear reigns across the nation, and Big Brother is watching you, right? That stemmed from Orwell. And then
And
we
plus,
have,
they get to do things that regular people don't know. They're doing stuff people don't know about, obviously, because they don't know who they
yeah,
are, and they
yeah,
also have access to things that the average person doesn't, which is what we're living under. So there's
exactly.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then the once again the telescreens that the propaganda, the for them it was that surveillance. It was said that even whispers could be heard, and your heart rate, your facial recognition going on.
Everybody's still wearing their Fitbit,
Yeah, right. Their Fitbit
their
or
Apple Watch,
their Aura
or
ring.
their Oura rings.
Yeah,
Hello. I mean, they're
facial
reading
recognition
you.
on their iPhone.
Yeah, Michelle asked me when she got an Apple Watch, she goes, "You don't want one?" I go, "It's bad enough I have a phone and a TV and a computer. I don't want that shit on me."
Yeah, yeah, and that Bluetooth is not good for our bodies either.
Have you ever
Yeah.
noticed you don't have iPhone anymore, but I'll notice I'll pick my phone up and there's a little green light on here. and it's on. It'll just be on whenever, like, so like if you light your
Oh, does it
screen
ever
up,
turn
right?
green and red?
Yes.
Yeah,
Or not at all. So if
yeah.
I haven't been using the phone, there won't be any light up there. And then sometimes it's red, but most times it's green. And it always is after we record our episodes.
Doesn't that mean that like your camera is on or something? Your camera's on?
No, I thought that. I looked it up. It means that there's apps activating.
Oh,
See, there it is right now.
okay. Sure.
And I'm not using my microphone right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then also, just for real quick, I commented on there was a girl, her name is Bailey Sarian. I actually referenced her in our description for the Valentine's episode because I watched her video in conjunction with a lot of my other research on Valentine's Day. She's kind of funny. She's more into um, kind of basically true crime. And but she had a video in which she wasn't talking about that, and you can tell she had been crying and no makeup on, and it was kind of like a momentary freak out about what are we going to do with these people running everything. Well, I commented on the video and I said some things. One of the things I said is because I go, stop your Amazon account. You want to hit these people. If you think it's going to make a difference, don't give them money. Take their money away from them. But one of the things I said is, I don't know, maybe we get a public fund together and basically take over the companies.
Yeah.
And guess what? Right after that, well, actually, YouTube nationwide had problems, but also we were having problems with our phone that night, and my comment is nowhere to be found
Interesting.
on there. So, again, we're being monitored.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah. I ended my subscription to Amazon. I switched my Google over to uh Ecosia, I don't know, for my search engine. And then yeah, I think just like not putting any money towards
Mhm.
those big stinky corporations and um
Maybe don't buy from like Victoria's Secret. I mean, Wes Wexner doesn't own it anymore, but if you look at the amount of, I said that in there too. Look at where you're buying things from.
yeah,
And just
Targets,
because,
Starbucks.
yeah, like if you look at like Wexner, he owns several companies. So you might have went to the Limited in the 80s and 90s and bought clothing there while you were putting money in Wexner's pocket.
Yeah,
It's a matter of doing your own homework and, and then trying to support local businesses too.
that too. Yeah, yeah. Okay. I have a few more things I can just read and then I'll be done. But then like themes in the movie, right? There's the psychological manipulation. There's telescreens everywhere, kind of like we always have a smartphone in our pocket. Um, Pent up
Ew,
negative
yeah.
emotions that are directed at the party's political enemies, right? Um, Physical control in the movie book, they do the mass morning exercise. Then they make them go to their government agencies, keeping people in that state of exhaustion, right? We work 40 plus hours a week to barely make our uh,
Hmm.
uh, living situations. And then if they, well, if they defy, they get punished and re-educated. Um, but for that one, I thought that one was more. I was like, oh darn, it made me think of the Life Between Lives when the souls weren't quite brainwashed. They would send them to those four little
Yeah.
earths to learn. But yeah, and then the control of information and history, no records of the past, controlling the present, and moving forward with their narratives for what they wanted to create. And that's all I have. I know we had some quotes that we did the first time.
I do, and I
But
have those on here real quick that I can go through.
yeah.
Um, here's a few of them. War is peace,
Oh yeah.
freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. And that was a telescreen announcer over one of the screens on a presentation that they were showing uh, the population. Here's another quote. in accordance to the principles of doublethink. It does not matter if the war is not real. The war is waged by the ruling group against its own subjects. And this was Winston reading Goldstein's book. And also keep in mind, that's something we mentioned in the other video we haven't yet. How many wars? We're always at war and have been since after 9/11. And we went into Iraq, and it's been one thing after another after another. We might not be directly involved, but our resources and our military and our weapons are being poured into them, just like in the movie. I don't know how he foresaw this, but it's rather amazing. So, um, this is another quote. Nothing the party says is true. Nothing the party does is good. People of Oceania, you are being duped. That was another quote from the citizen Goldstein. Thought crime is death. Thought crime does not entail death. Thought crime is, in all caps, death. That was Winston kind of doing this inner dialogue with himself with the word thought crime and what it means. And then what was the other one? Oh, we can kind of end this here on this. To me, the most important quote, and it's something that should stick with us, I think. It's not so much staying alive, it's staying human that's important. What counts is that we don't betray each other. And I think that that's something that is whether we're talking about beyond out of here, staying true to yourself, right? But while we're living, staying true to ourselves and each other, not betraying. Because when we betray each other, we end up betraying ourselves in the end. So that was to me the big takeaway from all of that. And as a matter of fact, betraying the self is how you end up by being duped and trusting things outside of yourself that are telling you stuff that's not true. That's how you get society something.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, the only thing I have to add is kind of a few things coming up. By the way, I did start a Telegram for our channel. The link is in the description notes on half of our videos. Our most recent to like our half catalog back, and I'll get the link in our older ones. And like I said, we'll be covering CERN and Project Looking Glass. And we are going to do like every 2 weeks. I might, I don't know how I feel about this because I don't feel like I get uncomfortable talking to a computer screen. At least I can look at Devin and it's an interaction.
Yeah.
I might put a video in between on certain subjects that I can cover well enough. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But other than that, in terms of Devin and I co-hosting together, she's got a lot going on with her schooling. So we're going to end up doing like every 2 weeks, right, Devin?
Something like that, yeah. Yeah.
And that gives us, yeah, and especially on something like CERN and Project Looking Glass, it's just going to take a lot of research on it. And that gives us more time. And then also that means all of the other things I told you about are going to be pushed back. So after that, the moon will be 2 weeks from CERN, and then every 2 weeks after that, is kind of going to be the right. You're going at least until May or till further notice. We'll have to see how that goes, and we'll kind of play around with things. So that's my latest two things as far as keeping everybody updated on what's going on with the channel. And anything you'd like to add to the movie or about what's going on today, or any updates on the channel or anything you'd like to bring to light?
No, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. Like, I feel like most people who watch our channel know to not believe everything the news is trying to tell us, but
or even us necessarily.
Check
us, fact check us. We don't,
Yeah, try to view things from a outside perspective and not get too emotionally invested in all the different things happening right now without really looking into it from different angles, and practice lots of self-care. And yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to get any easier, right? So
for
just
sure.
take care of yourselves, right? Yeah, that's what I wanted to to end on.
I like it. I like the quote. I'm sticking with the quote because I think
Yeah,
it
it's a
well,
great
and
quote
what you
too.
said, it
Oh,
really is that the what you said and then the quote together is a perfect way to end.
yeah. Yeah. All right. So that is it for our 1984 episode. And we'll see y'all here next time.
All right, everybody, take care.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.